Hello there, everybody. How the devil are we all? I'm fucking tired as all hell, but we've got a special guest. We've got the AngryAussie. Hello there.
Hello, good fine people. How are you? It's evening for me, morning for people in the UK.
Indeed, yes, because I mean, Australia has decided to be in the incorrect hemisphere, and B, very incorrect time zone. So
it is probably the least convenient time zones to try and match up Australia and your part of Europe.
yeah, I think that was literally the point of sending criminals there.
I think you may be right.
Yeah, there we go. But anyway, enough of colonial crime. Anyway, on to modern day crime. What the fuck's happening with the Australian government?
Oh, what isn't happening?
Yes.
Now I've made things happen to
the Australian government. Are you overthrowing them right now on Twitter? That'd be amazing.
Okay, I'm trying to work something out. I've done a technical boo-boo at my end. Wait, no, I worked out what to do. I think I'm fine now. Let me double, triple fix this stuff up now.
For what it's worth, nothing seems to have gone wrong.
I was only at my end. I had the delay coming in as well, and it made it super confusing. Okay. So what's happening?
Right.
Right.
Yeah, well, they lost a vote on government legislation for the first time in 80 years, I was reading.
Yep, that was hilarious. Because they're a minority government. The hilarity happened because most of the world is kind of aware of us playing musical chairs with prime ministers.
There's been a slew of them, yes.
Yeah, Labor went, Rudd's the prime minister. No, Gillard's the prime minister. No, Rudd's the prime minister. And then the Libs went, Abbott's the prime minister. No, Turnbull's the prime minister. No, Morrison's the prime minister. So it's changed that much in like the last 8-10 years. It's ridiculous. It's quite ridiculous behaviour, and the current government's paying for it. And one thing Turnbull did when they were going to roll him, he basically said, because they only had a 1-seat majority, and he said, I'm resigning from Parliament if this happens. And they did it anyway, and he resigned, and there was a by-election, and an independent won his seat. The Liberal candidate did not win it.
Oh, wow.
So they're officially a minority government. So all the independents and Labor ganged up on them on a particular vote, so they lost it, which, as you point out, hasn't happened for like 80, 90 years. And today, the foreign minister, one of their most senior ministers, one of the most long-serving members of Parliament, Julie Bishop, announced she was quitting, wasn't going to contest the next election. She's the 4th minister in the last month to say, oh, fuck this for a game of soldiers, I'm out.
Oh, wow. They're not going to have many options available to even have ministerial positions then. If they carry on at that rate.
No, they're a joke. They've got at most somewhere between 1 and 3 months before the election. He could call it any time, and they give us about 5 weeks notice, I think. But it has to happen by May. So this shit show stumbles on for 1 to 3 months.
Well, presumably they just wait out the time then, because they know they're going to get, by the polls, they look like they're going to get absolutely battered.
Yeah, you can't really take things for granted, but they're going to get smashed.
Yes. As I heard you were on election night as well.
Oh, that's my plan. That is my big plan. Most definitely to get really smashed on election. People say, do a shot every time the government loses a seat. And I'm going, no, that's alcohol poisoning.
That's a guaranteed trip to the hospital by the end of the night, yeah.
Yeah, somewhere between, look, I think conservatively, they're probably going to lose 20 seats. Like Labor only has to pick up 6 or 7 seats to form a majority. Conservatively, the government are probably going to lose 20 seats. That's where I sit. I reckon they're going to lose about 20 seats. But it's not...
That's out of a Senate of about, is it 180 seats or something?
I know that the lower house, that's like 75 seats, right?
Okay.
So whoever's got the majority out of 75 runs the government.
Oh, wow. So to lose 20 would be huge.
Oh, yeah. And they could lose 40. Some of the projections, and these are unrealistic but vaguely possible. They could lose just, you know, I actually think I got those numbers wrong. Every other live stream, I look up the numbers, and Wikipedia has the numbers, and I always forget. I say it's advancing age is my excuse, that I forget the numbers. Oh wait, that was the wrong goddamn link. The actual government website, there's no useful information there.
Yes, and we should always explain for any non-Australians that it's the Liberal Party in government, but that's the Conservative Party.
Yes.
Because
okay.
Everything's weird in Australia.
Yes, it absolutely is. And that goes back to Robert Menzies, who was the oldest of old school Tories in the middle of the 20th century, when he formed the Liberal Party, because Australian political parties were very liquid. Like, we only were a country since 1900. And the formation of political parties was quite liquid for a while, people changing sides, inventing new parties. And then Menzies invented the capital L Liberal Party. And you know how you get the cockheads today say, I'm a classical liberal. Yes. Menzies was a classical liberal for the mid-20th century.
Oh, wow. So he was like an OG classical liberal.
Yeah. He rejected the term conservative, even though, I mean, you know, the middle of the 20th century, you could imagine how conservative he actually was.
Yeah, I imagine so. This would have been this would have been during the time of the White Australia policy as well, I imagine.
Oh, absolutely. Christ, that's recent history. Yeah, so he was, I think he was in Parliament from like the 30s to the 50s, or possibly longer, maybe even into the 60s. He served as Prime Minister for a very long time when he won office. But yeah, he formed the Liberal Party. And, you know, it was that classic thing that lying conservatives say now, where they say, I'm about small government and giving freedom to the individual, while they're actually totalitarians. Menzies actually believed that. He believed in government getting out of people's way, but he was like super anti-communist, super anti-union. So
not terribly surprising for but geographically not Western, but you know what I mean, politically Western nations leader.
Yes. Yeah.
Unsurprising, really.
But yeah, again, his competitors, the Labor Party in the mid-20th century, you know, it was a trade unionist party, and had all the obvious links to people with communist sympathies and leanings, which, of course, laughably, the Conservatives will tell you today they still are, to which a bunch of actually left-wing people say, I wish.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. You have to give the right-wing propaganda machine around the world a tip of the hat on a Machiavellian level, because they've managed to convince everybody that anyone slightly to the left of centre is Mao.
Yeah, yeah. And I've got the way it doesn't even, that they're not even mildly concerned with lying. I don't know why that still bugs me, but I'm not talking about differences of opinion. I mean, when they just straight up lie, and you can easily expose the lie, and it's absolutely irrelevant to them because they go, I was just triggering the libs, you know, and it's just like,
yeah, that's,
but
it is infuriating. I mean, I saw you commented on one of the Facebook things that I shared from Hank Green about that. The idea of having a political movement based upon pissing people off for no reason.
Yeah.
What's the point of that exactly?
Sorry, I'm in the kitchen. You after dessert or something? The ice cream's in that freezer. You have to bowl. Sorry, this is what happens when I live stream from the kitchen. Occasionally someone demands to use it as a kitchen.
Yeah, well, that's incredibly irresponsible of the other people not to get their kitchen-related items before it started. This is outrageous.
I did warn them, but it is only 7 p.m. here.
That's fine. I expect, you know, people with other lives. Like the most that'll happen here is that a cat might jump up. That's about it. Like I purposefully stay away from humans, really, if I can.
Yeah, fair call. Yeah, I'm next to the cat tower too, so there's a reasonable chance my cat will appear as well.
Your cat's adorable, by the way.
Oh, she is here. You gonna come up here, Mimsy? Say hello to people? Yes, she is.
There you
She
go.
loves the attention. Yes. She comes in here to get attention.
Well, I will lock on your screen while there's cat action happening.
We know what the punters want.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I am a shameful user of my cat for beauty reasons. People want to watch the cat do stuff.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
so
You've got a
interesting.
ginger as well, don't you?
Yeah, but none of this white underbelly stuff. No. Pure ginger.
Yes.
But
well, this is a girl. There's not many female gingers.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. Stunning. But I still doesn't make sense to me because Australia's a very hot place largely, and it's got fur. It doesn't. How does that work? I don't understand.
It's got what? Sorry.
It's got fur all over its body. It must sweat terribly or whatever.
It's insulation, I guess. All the marsupials have fur.
I suppose.
So I guess it's insulation.
Oh, yeah, okay. Basically, I don't know. I'm not a vet, but it just seems.
No.
I know Rory Cats doesn't like the sun. It doesn't like the heat too much, and it never gets that hot here.
Yeah.
Australia. Look, we have a thing here in Britain called cold, which is like hot, but the opposite, right?
Yeah.
And the cat's fine with that. He likes cuddling up and stuff, but in the heat, he just melts.
No, this one and a sidekick love the heat. Like these hot days, they'll find a spot in the sun and just luxuriate in the sun. And in the late day, they'll get on concrete or flagstones that's been absorbing the heat all day, and they'll just lie on it, just like, yeah.
He's got a sidekick, you say?
Oh yes, we have, but she's super shy. Shadow, she won't come in while I'm talking. It's like this one sleeps on my bed at night when I'm there, and Shadow sleeps on my bed during the day while I'm at work. So she just acts like I'm going to murder her all the time.
Well, that's either paranoia or very well observed on that cat's part. I don't know.
Well, I've had her for like 10 years and she hasn't been murdered yet. But every day it's like, no, this could be the day. This could be the day. I could get murdered today.
Your cat is literally just looking at your hands thinking, they could be giving me fuss. Why?
Yeah, she headbutts me. It's like,
yeah.
But yes.
But anyway, yes. Back to more serious.
I looked up the numbers. The reason I had 75 in my head is there's 150 seats in the lower house. So if you have more than 75, you have an outright majority. Government currently has 74 seats, so they're a minority. In terms of forming government, it doesn't matter who has power in the Senate, who has the numbers in the Senate. The government's formed by the majority in the lower house. But, of course, legislation also has to get passed by the Senate. So if the government doesn't have numbers in the Senate, they have to negotiate with the Senate to get legislation through. But the Senate doesn't dictate who the government is. Unless they do something like block supply, which has happened in the past, what in America they call a shutdown, either the upper or lower house says, we're not passing any of the government spending bills, so the government has no money.
That doesn't happen in Britain because someone tried that back in the 1920s. So they signed a thing basically saying you can't block a government finance bill. You can amend it, but you can't block it. So there can't be a shutdown, basically.
Yep. Well, you can straight up block it here. Notoriously happened in 1975. And when people say, why do you care whether or not you're part of, like the monarchy is officially our head of state, go, well, because in 1975, the bunch of bullshit shenanigans, the democratically elected government was sacked by the non-elected Queen's representative, the Governor General, with the assent of the Queen. And that's why we should be a republic and not subject to the crown, because that shit can actually happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's fucking madness, isn't it? That would ever be allowable in a democratic modern nation.
And
it seems like such an open and shut case, but yeah, it's very difficult to convince a majority of Australians to actually back that.
Yeah. Sentimental reasons, basically. People are awfully sentimental about the Queen currently. Of course, there'd be a seismic shift when Betty Windsor pops her clogs.
Especially because Charles is a dick.
Yeah, no one likes Charles. But there's always been rumours, because he's going to be so old by the time his mum dies. There's always been rumours he might just straight up say, I actually don't want to take the crown, my son. And because he'd be popular. Wills would be popular. Chuckles wouldn't be.
Yeah. Young.
There's been those rumours.
Young by modern standards.
Yes, yeah. So, maybe Chuckles would prefer to stay one step removed from it all. But, I mean, we'll find out. I mean, although going by how long her mum lasts, Betty could last another 20 years.
I'm not entirely convinced she isn't like some sort of immortal, to be honest, because she just keeps going and going and going.
Speaking of which, David Icke.
She kind of, fuck it. That My Little Factoid is irrelevant. David Icke, let's go. Come on.
Because he thinks the royal family are shape-shifting lizards.
He correctly knows that that's the case.
Yeah. He has revealed that the royals are shape-shifting lizards, and he's the latest to be refused a visa entry to Australia. He was going to do a speaking tour.
Okay.
And when I heard,
the thing is ultimately, right? Okay, I agree with Australia when they ban people like fucking Tommy Robinson and Milo and this detritus. But in terms of David Icke, now I think he's a fucking lunatic and he's full of shit.
Yeah.
But ultimately, is he like a danger to the Australian people?
When I heard he got banned, I thought, what, we're banning people just for being stupid now? It's whoa, that's a tough barrier to entry.
That's going to mean you're going to have to expel a lot of your own citizens, it seems.
Oh, definitely. But apparently, the big driver is some people lobbied quite hard, saying Icke was anti-Semitic and a Holocaust denier, which I didn't know, and he's since released a statement denying that. But he sees conspiracies everywhere, so fuck knows. I imagine the claims of him being anti-Semitic and a Holocaust denier were... I think the one thing is not that he was a Holocaust denier, but he said that Zionists actually financed the Holocaust for their own purposes.
Yeah. Well, it's not outright denial, but as we've discussed, I've discussed on this channel before, it's a sliding scale. It starts at a thing called de-Judification, which is focusing not on Jews but on the other groups that were focused. Not that you shouldn't, remember those people as well, but focusing on them and ignoring the obviously racial factor involved with the Jewish slaughter. All the way through to outright denial. And to say the Zionists was what done it, basically saying it's the Jews that did it for their own sneaky ends. That's Holocaust denial. I mean, that's
well, it's the whole idea that it was orchestrated and exaggerated to create sympathy for the Jewish people, so everyone would get together and create a Jewish state for the Zionists, which of course did happen after World War II. And I sort of, to me, that's a citation needed thing, because I don't pay that much attention to Icke, and I wasn't aware of his views on the Holocaust or Jewish people generally. So I don't know what the people who were pissed off at him were referencing. But unsurprisingly, he denies it. He says he's not.
Well, but they all fucking do. No one comes out and says, I think, I think this exact thing. No, they say it's subterfuge. I'm not denying it. I'm just asking questions about fuck off. Come on. If he's gone down that line, I don't mind him being banned from Australia. I mean, if you want to take him off our hands, by all means.
So
technically, we have a legal, responsibility to keep him. So
David Irvine was a funny one, because he
another one. Thanks. All the British Holocaust deniers are coming out now. Come on now.
Yeah. Well, he was an explicit Holocaust denier, but then he was brought up on criminal charges because of it, and then he suddenly started backpedaling, and that was humorous to watch, because he'd just been an explicit Holocaust denier for years. But then it's like, no, these are criminal charges. This is quite serious. And so he started backpedaling really hard. It didn't work. He got convicted, if I remember rightly.
He did. Was it possibly Austria, if I recall correctly? It was one of the.
It was either that or in the European court or something.
No, well, it was. Yeah, it was in one of the nations where Holocaust denial is illegal. Which I have to say, I mean, I despise Holocaust denial, but I don't think it should be illegal as such. That seems.
Well, I mean, because that's also like the joke about Count Dankula. I only ever mentioned him when I found out he was being prosecuted, and I went, "Oh, come the fuck on! He might be a dickhead, but you're going to prosecute him for that?" And then he got convicted, of course. And I was like, "No, that's sure." But because I said, he seems clearly to be one of that crowd who are trying to normalize hate speech. Like, he's being very disingenuous to say, oh, no, I think saying all those anti-Semitic things is the worst thing you could possibly say. My personal opinion is that's bullshit. He's part of that crew that want to normalize hate speech. They say it's free speech, but they're trying to shift the window of what's acceptable. Like, yes, I should be able to use racial slurs. I should be able to use ethnic and religious slurs, free speech. And they just want to be fucking bigots.
Well, yeah, and it doesn't help his case, obviously, that he's gone and joined UKIP, which is famously just chock full of racists and all kinds of extremist, former National Front BNP members and things,
Although it was kind of funny when Nigel Farage didn't want Sargon.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
My favourite quote from one of the Welsh members of the Welsh Assembly, which is like a sort of regional government for Wales, a UKIP member said that under Farage, people like Carl and Dankula wouldn't have been accepted in the party. There were standards back then.
Being below Farage's standards is just hilarious.
It is, and he literally quit the party, didn't he? And has now set up his own.
He did.
He's now set up his own party, and that party is now. Oh no, it's not his own party. He's like joined this thing called the Brexit Party, and all of that. And I don't know if you've been following the breakaway members of Parliament here in Britain over the last few days. It's been amazing.
Are the Labour members?
There's been now 8 Labour members and 3 Conservatives who have joined this thing called the Independent Group, which isn't officially a party. It's just an independent group of basically centrist dicks. I mean, they're just self-centered fucking assholes. Anyway, and Farage quite rightly pointed out that these people were elected on a ticket from only 18 months ago on Conservative ticket or a Labour ticket, and should go to a by-election now because you're not sitting for that party anymore. You've clearly abused that rank, that position. But which is fair enough, that's true. But Nigel Farage is a member of the European Parliament who was elected as a member by UKIP and is now an independent and has not stood for a by-election in his case either.
Yeah.
So fuck him.
Yeah. Oh, that crap happens in Australia all the time, particularly in the Senate. People, because if you're down a party ticket on the Senate, you can get elected even though no one who knows who you are and no one really votes for you. It's just that spill down of votes reached you and you got in. And this happens all the time. People go, I don't like that party I'm with now. I'm independent. It's like, well, what the fuck? You would never have got in as an independent. Yeah. Well, and a lot of money is spent on you.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's slightly different in Britain for members of Parliament. You do vote for your member of Parliament. So there is at least some argument to say they have like a personal vote. Maybe that should count. But I don't think that. I think that you should go for a by-election if you leave. If they kick you out, that's maybe different. But if you fucking leave, that's I think you should.
I think it's complete bollocks. If you get elected on a party ticket and then you leave that party, get out.
Yeah, exactly, absolutely. But especially so in Farage's case, because in the European elections, you literally do vote for that ticket, and however many votes they get in each region equates to how many from that party get in. Yeah. Now, Farage would undoubtedly be at the top of that UKIP ticket, but it doesn't matter. You're elected as UKIP. You weren't
Yeah.
elected as Nigel Farage, so
Yeah. No, and that shit happens here all the time. But and that's actually why the government's a minority, because of a couple of people who declared themselves independent, and that coupled with a couple of by-elections that went against the government, and independents won previously safe Conservative seats. So yeah, I think it's like 11 independents on the crossbench, which well, there's possibly more. I did find the right Wikipedia page, but it's like 150 MPs. The government only has 73 of the seats now. Jesus. The opposition's got 69. Nice.
that's why I put government in quotation marks, because I mean
Uh,
they're officially in power, but they're not actually really operable if they're losing their own fucking
oh
legislative.
yeah. Oh well, he already jigged it before Christmas, so there's no more sitting days of Parliament. There's like 2 or 3 sitting days of Parliament before the election, so they it's going to be very hard for them to get caught out again. But I swear they're a fucking joke. There's, like I said, you don't want to really, count your chickens before they're hatched. But the extreme probability is them getting smashed at an election.
Well, I'm counting chickens, motherfucker. Bill Shorten is the leader of the Labour Party at the moment, who
Yes.
would thus become the Prime Minister in that situation, yeah?
Correct.
Yes, and so tell us a little bit about him. I don't know a lot, but he was from trade union background, so that's positive, and he's a Republican.
Yep.
So.
I am not, in terms of who's in the ranks of the Labour Party, I am not a fan of his. He is the leader and he is going to be Prime Minister. He might be a good Prime Minister. He might be an average Prime Minister. My hope is the party as a whole is better than. See, what he's doing, all he's done, his entire campaign in his time in opposition has been, I'm not that guy. And it turns out that's a remarkably winning strategy.
Well, especially when that guy changes every other month.
Yeah, well, see, that was the big reason that Turnbull convinced people to dump Abbott. Abbott had been a very effective opposition leader because he just tore everything apart. But he was a terrible prime minister because he couldn't govern. He couldn't be reasonable. He kept being a destroyer. And the Australian public turned on him very quickly. And he lost something like the government lost something like 20 opinion polls in a row with him as prime minister, and Turnbull convinced enough of the party, this guy's driving us off a cliff, we need to get rid of him, we need to have a spill and kick him out, and he got in. Now Turnbull is much more charismatic than Abbott. He's a much more traditional sort of politician, and when he got in, I thought Shorten's policy of I'm not that guy wouldn't work anymore. But then because of rifts within his own party, Turnbull was pretty fucking useless as a prime minister, and he lost 1 million opinion polls in a row. And so Shorten's I'm not that guy still worked. And then ridiculously, it made no sense, but they had another leadership spill late last year that knocked off Turnbull, and the slightly surprising victor was Morrison, because the main instigator of the spill was this hard right, racist, potato-headed prick Peter Dutton. And so you thought if Turnbull lost, Dutton would get in. But the votes split, and there was a bunch of people who said Dutton would probably be bad. And surprisingly, this third candidate, Morrison, got up. And he's just been fucking pathetic in the last 6 months. Yeah. So Shorten's policy of I'm not that guy.
He's been ineffective, but also just the look of him. He looks like middle management in the accounts department for a law firm.
I wish that's all he was.
Yeah, but no, he's clearly much worse than that. But he doesn't inspire you with any confidence. Just the way he goes about things.
He's got no charisma. He's what doesn't get put in the spotlight enough, he's in one of those extremely conservative evangelical mega churches, Hillsong. So that's the insane bullshit that's been his life for the last couple decades, and that church needs a lot more publicity as far as I'm concerned.
Well, in terms of that's an interesting point, because it's not something you can ever really gauge from the outside. But what, in terms of religion, how is Australia? Is it a particularly religious place? I don't get that impression.
Nah. Very agnostic. I mean, you go, the majority of the population, some stripe of Christian. But you look at previous leaders. Kevin Rudd was a Catholic. Labor was a very Catholic party through its history. But Tony Abbott's a Catholic, even though he's a Conservative. He's a Catholic. Turnbull's, I think, probably very old school Church of England, or some Protestant variation. Like I said, Morrison's in this freaky, bloody, happy, clapping, mega church evangelical bullshit. But I mean, Gillard was an atheist. She didn't make a huge song and dance about it, but it was basically common knowledge. She was an atheist. And no one gave a shit. No, the ultra-conservatives tried to make a thing of it, but the general populace was like, I don't fucking care if she's an atheist. Don't care at all.
Oh, good. Well, I'm glad about that. Because, I mean, although I don't think we've ever had, like, an out atheist as such, there was the famous line from Alistair Campbell, the Tony Blair spin doctor, when he just said, when asked about religion, he just said, "We don't do God." It was very blunt.
Yeah.
And that's not to say like that you couldn't be religious or whatever. It's just in terms of government, we don't do it.
Not part of the policy.
No.
Yeah.
No. Which was good to calm everyone down, because Tony Blair was a hardcore Catholic. So people were like, "Whoa, let's chill out."
Well, that was the funny thing, because Kevin Rudd was a hardcore Catholic, and there was definitely, when he was running as opposition leader, running for election, there was definitely a slight sort of misgiving on the Australian public, thinking, God, he just seems a bit churchy Joe, I'm not sure. And then some idiot on the Conservative side thought he had some dirt that would take Rudd down, because Rudd worked in the Foreign Service for years. And he had this story of Rudd, when he was with the diplomatic corps in New York, going out with some American politicians and diplomats, getting shit-faced drunk and spending the night in a strip club. And this idiot on the
for a diplomat.
Yeah, well, this guy on the Conservative side thought this was going to torpedo Kevin Rudd. Well, he got drunk and went to a titty bar, and it actually humanized him.
Yeah, it's unknown that would happen.
Yeah. And people went, oh, thank God he's not that straight. He did get drunk and go to strip clubs. And he also had the best line, like, because the story had already been told. He was really drunk and at a strip club. And so reporters are saying, like, oh, who was your favorite, Kev? Who was your favorite stripper? And he got to just laugh and say, I honestly don't remember. That's how much I had to drink. And it humanized him and made him one of the lads. And it was one of the morons on the Conservative side who brought it up.
Brilliant. That's a very telling way in which hopefully modernity runs that kind of conservative religious bullshit out of mainstream politics. Hopefully.
But we can only hope, basically.
But when I said you look at the way America has gone, and that's terrifying.
Yeah, no, I ceased trying to make sense of any of that some time ago. It's
well, what do we think? I don't know if you've been following the 2020 candidates and stuff. Who's this young up and coming whippersnapper, Bernie Sanders? Have we heard of him before?
Oh my God, no, he doesn't have enough experience.
Exactly.
No.
Maybe in 2024 when he's ready.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah. Oh, look, I'm not a huge Sanders fan. I mean, anyone who knows my politics would know of the people who are running, his politics are by far the closest to mine. I just kind of have a few problems with him. I don't think he should be running. I think he should have basically tapped someone younger than him.
Is that? I was just going to say, why do you say he shouldn't be running?
I think someone younger should be. And I do understand Democrats being cynical and actively pissed off at him because he's not a Democrat. He's not a member of the party, but he intends to ride on their coattails. And I can understand that pissing people off. I mean, look, like the last election, not that I was never a mad Bernie guy, but when it got down to, you know, Bernie v. Hillary, I was, and you knew the opponent was going to be Trump. I was like, it would be really interesting to see Bernie v. Trump because, you know, Clinton's just part of the machine. There's literally no surprises whatsoever with Clinton. It's part of the machine. And, you know, Bernie had in his favor, he wasn't part of the machine. And, you know, who knows what weird and wacky things would happen with him.
He literally had a bird land on the front of his podium. Like he was like
I remember that.
Bird
that was hilarious.
Yeah.
Amazing. But he's a Disney princess.
Yeah, it is. It's like a scene from Frozen, but with a really old man. Yeah, absolutely. They put forward ultimately the problem was they put forward an establishment candidate in a change election.
Yeah. Oh, and I don't think, and I very much include the Republican Party in this. I don't think anyone understood Trump, and I'm getting headbutted. I don't think anyone understood how to deal with Trump. Like, he smashed everyone. Like, sure, he beat Clinton, but he beat a dozen Republicans. The entire force of the Republican Party machine was against Trump, and he still swept in. I mean, fucking up.
Well, part of the problem, the media really had to take some level of the blame there because they kept just focusing solely on Trump. And it doesn't matter ultimately. I mean, there is such a thing as bad publicity, obviously. The grabbing the pussies thing was, but ultimately as soon as he went and did another crazy thing, they'd just focus on that and everyone would forget the previous crazy things. And all you'd ever see was Trump.
Yeah.
And so that's perfect in an election cycle. You don't want your opponent on the TV.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like he got more publicity than the rest of them put together, basically.
Yeah.
But
he didn't have to spend all that much because the CNN and Fox and everyone else, left and right, was just giving him huge amounts of airtime.
Yeah. Because no one thought he was going to win. No one thought he'd win the nomination. No one thought he'd win the election.
But just looking at the mathematics of it, he shouldn't have won. It's almost inconceivable, given the how many votes he lost by in a popular vote, that he could have won the election. But he did. Just a fluke, basically.
Yeah, you could pin it down to, and I know there are some policy and tactic wonks who point out, in retrospect, Clinton made a couple of fatal mistakes with her campaigning style and her campaigning locations. And even Obama drew a parallel. He said, when I won, I was on the ground in all those states talking to ordinary people and meeting people. And Clinton was repeatedly just in fundraising dinners with really rich people. And she failed.
She lost Wisconsin, which she should never have lost. And she didn't visit it. She didn't go there. I mean, that's ridiculous. Absolutely so.
But it's just like none of the old tactics worked. No one understood Trump. No one understood how to deal with him. Whereas
what I will give Bernie, or at least Bernie's crew of people, Bernie's team, credit for is that even though obviously he doesn't really get it either, I think his team do. I think they've been very effective in mobilising new forms of communication in a way that someone of his age, you really wouldn't think their campaign could. Look, he's inspired a lot of younger people, which seems really odd given the age disparity.
Yeah, and that is interesting. And I mean, look, who knows what's going to happen? There's, so many people putting their hands up, and different people like different ones for different reasons and dislike other ones for different reasons. They say, oh, this person's good, this person, I know, Kamala Harris is a cop. And
that's an interesting phrase, because I've heard two interpretations of that. One, that she's obviously very pro-police, but also this thing called, is it COINTELPRO as well as another thing.
Well, she was involved in the prosecutorial side of things for a long time, but
But I've said with all of these candidates, regardless of who gets in there, the upcoming election in 2020 is it doesn't matter. They could put up the fucking Lucifer. It's about getting rid of Trump. It really doesn't matter who they put up. It has to be get the fuck rid of Trump. That's the main thing. Even if they put in someone who is essentially just a bit of a conservative, that's fine by comparison.
Yeah. But of course, the world's so goddamn weird. We don't know what's going to happen with Trump. Like now the reports are coming out that we may see a tabling of the Mueller investigation in a week or two. And you look at everything that's happened up to now, the convictions, the jailings. It's like 6 to 8 people who are this close with Trump have been convicted of serious criminal offences. The idea that he gets off scot-free is incredibly implausible.
Well, yes and no. But what I will say is that they don't tend to go after American presidents in the way they would with their team. For instance, Richard Nixon was pardoned, presidentially pardoned by his former vice president. Anyway, because obviously they're talking about like national divides and stuff. And clearly, if you put Trump in jail, the third of the population that are his base, that are just ridiculous fanatics, would be in open insurrection in many places. So what they'll probably do, I imagine, is essentially say, if you don't stand in 2020, we'll give you prosecutorial immunity, and we'll just sweep this ugly incident on our nation, a scar on our nation, under the carpet.
But
which
talking
I'd like to see him in prison, but if ultimately it means he's not president anymore, that would be good for everyone on the planet.
Yeah. But talking about those fanatics, right? You imagine, okay, yes, prosecution of him, that is extremely likely they'd react very badly to. But you look at it, just if he just decides not to stand at the next election, they're going to scream conspiracy and God knows what they'll do. If he stands and loses, they're going to scream, he's going to scream fraud and God knows what they'll do.
Well, he did, even when he won. He still
I know, which is surreal.
4 million dead people voted. What? There's no evidence for any of that. And he'd won, so he still had to lie even then.
Yeah. But also, he's over 70 and extraordinarily unhealthy, and under a lot of stress, he could just drop dead at any second. And they'd all see that as, if he died, that would be a conspiracy.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I've said this about the likes of Alex Jones as well. Because obviously no one's immortal. He will die at some point. And no matter how it is, he could be 90 years of age and die peacefully of old age in his sleep. And it will have been a conspiracy by the deep state to silence him at the age of fucking 90. Like,
But you look at, but there's also that thing, when we worry about that fanatical base who will have guns, what will they do? Historically, look at the evidence, probably nothing. The whole South will rise again thing. But what we've got to worry about, of course, is your biggest threat to life in the US at the moment is white male domestic terrorists. That's who's most likely to kill you. If you're going to get killed in a terrorist event, it's overwhelmingly likely that the perpetrator who kills you is going to be an extreme right-wing white male. There are others, of course. You do get Islamic terrorists. You do get black people motivated by political views, killing cops and whatnot.
Yeah, and you had Cesar Sayoc, the CNN bomber guy, who was an extreme right-winger, but was Latino. So that's a slight difference, I suppose. That's,
I was sure if he was Latino or Filipino.
Oh, okay. But you can tell.
But it had a Spanish name anyway,
Yeah, the ethnic minorities are integrating well into American society when they're doing terrorism too.
But look at the Proud Boys. The Proud Boys are proud that they have non-white members. They really trumpet their Asian, Latino, and the occasional black member of the Proud Boys because they see we're not racist. It's like, no, we've always had people who weren't white carrying the water for white supremacists. That's always been there.
Well, the English Defence League, erstwhile led by Tommy Robinson, of course, they did very similar things. There'd be 10,000 white dudes, all with horrific tattoos and singing songs and Nazi salutes, and they'd always put the 2 black guys right at the front. Every march, every demo, every interview, put the black guy, basically put the tokens at the front. Just put them at the front. And they were dickheads as well, by the way. But, they were shields.
You get quite hilarious things happen in Australia. The extreme right in Australia, there's a couple of well-known identities that are all your white, active, Hitler-loving males. They all try and deny it, keep it under the cover, but they've all got a history of openly praising Hitler. And I'm really sure if you got their shirts off, you'd see swastika tattoos. But some really high-profile ones like Blair Cottrell repeatedly said Hitler's a great man. His photos should be in every school classroom and they should all study Mein Kampf. And they try and keep that on the down low now. But most of the white guys on the extreme right in Australia are like active endorsers of Nazi ideology. But in amongst them are the wild cards. Like there's this guy that my activist friends like to call Little Avi Yemeni. Because he is, I think he's only about my height. I think he's shorter than me, and I'm short. But he's a Zionist, right? He served in the Israeli army.
Oh no, we're well aware of Mr. Zemini here in Britain. He's ganged up with the likes of Robinson and been seen at their speakers' corner gatherings and things.
And he hangs out with the extreme right here, but most of the extreme right here are rabid anti-Semitic Hitler lovers. And so it blows up sometimes. Like he's like, yeah, we're all against the Muslims. We're all against the Muslims. And someone goes, and the Jews.
Exactly. But he's a foul individual. Like you say, he's served in the IDF and he openly will boast about having killed innocent Palestinians.
Yeah, civilian Palestinians, yeah. But it's like he's hanging out with people who want to kill him.
Yeah.
It's bizarre.
That's the point I keep making to these people with, Jewish far-right people or gay people or whatever. Just, you'll be in the concentration camps with me as well, you idiot.
Yeah.
What are you doing? You're literally signing your own death warrant.
Yeah, and I honestly think the only thing that saved Milo Yiannopoulos from getting the shit kicked out of him is he's faded from the spotlight. Like the crowds he was moving in, they weren't going to tolerate him forever. They were, at some point, at one of their events, he was going to get the shit kicked out of him. But I think the only thing that saved his life is he's faded from the spotlight.
Possibly, yeah, because they are very violent individuals, and he is a gay man who openly boasts about how much he loves black penis every 5 fucking seconds, and which he's perfectly entitled to do, of course, but it's still in those circles frowned upon. Let's put it that way. And there's a Jewish extraction, so he really ticks a lot of the boxes for some special attention from those kind of folks.
No, he is absolutely dicing with death with that shit he was doing. And I think he's too narcissistic to understand they were going to turn. One day they were going to turn. And it would not be good.
He believes his own bullshit. He believes his own hype about himself. He thinks he can talk himself out of everything. And sometimes you can't.
No. And this, I mean, this has happened with the extreme right groups here. It's weird when you get these fractious, angry, fringe lunatics together, they end up not liking each other because they actually recognize that the others are awful people. And they've surrounded themselves with awful people, and it occasionally boils over into quite violent incidents.
Yeah, they do. Well, yeah, the EDL, as aforementioned, were constantly kicking off with one another. If they couldn't get at the police, they'd just start beating the shit out of one another. Because that's what it's a lot of built-up tension and hatred, and they'll turn on someone, even if it has to be basically a mirror image of themselves. Yeah,
and even the American right, because there are some noble individuals who infiltrated them and infiltrated their chat boards. And there's a few people, and they'll publish the chats from these things, and it's like, well, you guys are really close to offing each other, aren't you? They break into factions and they'll just go like, him, fuck him, he sold us out, da 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 da. And because the ones who do sell them out, like Gavin McInnes, if he shows his face at some of these far right things, someone will fucking knife him.
Yeah.
You know, he founded the Proud Boys, but it was so obviously self-serving and self-enriching. There are other people who've basically pledged, if McInnes shows up at one of these things, I'm going to fucking knife him.
Well, I've literally seen, because obviously I frequent those kind of spaces research-wise, and I've seen Richard Spencer described literally, unironically described as a Bolshevik plant.
Oh, yeah. There was a whole bunch of them who were really quite determined to do for Richard Spencer.
Yeah.
They don't like him at all. And that's the thing. You whip up a hate mob and you put yourself at so much risk because you're always going to say something that someone doesn't like. And people always criticize the left. We're not completely without foundation about, doing the whole gotcha thing and you're cancelled and call out culture and whatnot. But these violent right-wing mobs straight up talk about killing the people they don't like.
Indeed. And well, as was pointed out, I don't big myself up too often, but I was a very small part in taking Milo down. Yes, I was.
Yeah, no, which was, God's work, as they say. But
yeah, which is odd because he's a hardcore Catholic and I'm not. So
yeah. Yes, I think God has abandoned him quite simply. I just loved reading all the stuff about how broke he was because he had set up a company which he treated as a personal bank account.
yes.
But he's liable for a huge amount of tax that had to be paid on all the money he spent. And he just treated the company as a personal bank account. And now there are stories about how many millions of dollars he owes in tax. And
well, doesn't he? I believe he still owes the Australian federal government like $30,000 or something for security at some of his events.
Yeah. Plus, he was meant to, he was signed up to do another tour, and that just fell into acrimony and backbiting and abusing each other. But then I think he's okay for a visa. But good old Stephen Yaxley Lennon was meant to be coming, and he had his visa denied.
Originally, it was they called it the Deplorables tour, which
is, the American thing.
McInnes, Robinson, and it was McInnes and Milo first, right?
Yes,
and McInnes got denied. So they'd already sold loads of tickets, and now I don't know how much it amounts to, but it must be tens of thousands of dollars. In tickets that were sold that are now not being refunded because Milo is a con artist. You fucking idiots. And that I've said before, as bad as that is, and he should give them the money back, I don't feel the slightest pang of sympathy for these people. He's a con artist. He's given you every opportunity in the world to realise what a con artist he is, and you gave him your money. So.
No, every time I hear one of these things with these right-wing activists tripping people off, I just go, fucking fuck you for giving them money.
It's with stupidity.
They're going to make their documentary taking down the feminists, and they take $100,000 from Kickstarter and then never do anything, and it's like, well, fuck all of you, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. So then it changed. Then Milo changed from McInnes because he can't go there to Tommy Robinson, who now it looks like has been denied a visa as well. So basically, Milo, get the hint here. Australia doesn't like any of your fucking friends.
Yeah,
you're lucky to have been allowed in yourself, right?
Yeah.
So none of your friends get better friends. Don't hang around with garbage. Would be my advice.
Yeah, I tell you, the ones who did get let in that I wasn't. Because I have to admit, I didn't quite know everything about them. The ones who did get let in last year, Lauren Southern and
Stefan Molyneux,
Molyneux, I just thought, well, they're just fuckwits. You can't stop someone just because they're fuckwits. But it's after the fact I found out how aggressively racist they are.
Oh,
like,
no.
Molyneux's a straight-up white supremacist.
Molyneux's a straight-up white supremacist who has done so much Holocaust denial and standing for Hitler and stuff. Lauren Southern isn't quite as bad on that front. She at least puts on a slightly better veil of whatnot.
Yeah.
But if you look at her, the documentary, she's done 2 of them. She's done one on South Africa, who's now, I can't even fucking remember what it was called now. But it's basically about the white farmers.
The white genocide.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, bollocks, right? And then she did one called Borderlands about immigration, and they're both. I mean, like I say, she tries to put a veil on it, but it's essentially very, very close to being white nationalist, but is most firmly white supremacist propaganda.
Yeah. I mean, she deserves to be shut up for that shit she did with the boats, actually trying to drown refugees.
I think, I've said this before. When your activism becomes a hazard to shipping, you really need to stop.
Yeah.
That's you've crossed a line there at some point.
Yeah.
But because the Italian police and government probably did the right thing in terms of PR, because they knew this would blow up, because this would be a story. Foreign citizen, the Canadian government would get involved. It'd be a nightmare. So they just went, just let it go. She's just an idiot. Let it go. And that's because that's what these people want. Laura Loomer, the American idiot, the one that chained herself to the front door of Twitter. But she wants to get arrested. She desperately wants to get arrested. So just don't. Just let her go. Even let her walk down the street naked. Who cares? She's mental. Just let her do her thing. She wants to be arrested so she can do the state's oppressing me. No, you broke into someone's fucking property, you idiot.
Yeah. And when she handcuffed herself to the Twitter office doors and the cops came and the Twitter people, and the cops were basically, do you want us to arrest her? And the Twitter people are like, no, fuck it. She can stand there in handcuffs. We don't care.
The only reason, it must have been so soul destroying for her in a way, because and not that I feel remotely sorry for her, but the police were like, as long as you don't block both doors, because we just don't want it to be a fire hazard.
Yeah.
They weren't bothered about the protest. We just don't need it to be a fire hazard. That's all.
Yeah.
If you want to stand there all fucking day and freeze.
Yeah.
And that brilliantly, oh God, because I look into these things. She you can tell at one point she has to try and put a coat on, because she's forgotten to put her coat on before handcuffing herself. Not realizing.
Oh, because you can't pull it.
Yeah. So she had one half of her upper body basically freezing because it's New York in the winter. Yeah. Fucking idiot. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Well planned out.
Oh my God. She is such an idiot. And that's the thing, I think, who's, like you're saying, she's on someone's property. I half remember. It was Clinton's property, wasn't it?
No,
Pelosi's.
Nancy Pelosi's. Yeah, she broke into the grounds of her house. And again, Nancy Pelosi just said, no, just who cares? She didn't press charges because that's what she wants. She desperately wants to be arrested anyway. Yeah. So there are those people are.
And even just the saddos, like I was saying earlier, their insistence on just lying and the fact that it's pathetically easy to prove they're lying. Not that they're mistaken, not that you disagree with them, but they're lying. And they don't care. Like fucking that Prison Planet douchebag. No, Alex Jones, the younger one, Paul Watson or whatever the fuck his name is.
Paul Joseph Watson, yeah.
Yeah. He did this one the other day. He's talking about Amazon and the taxing. I noticed the left isn't criticizing Amazon for not paying any tax because, he does the right political views in the Washington Post. And I was like, that is literally the exact opposite of what everyone's saying. What the fuck is this with no tax?
I believe I retweeted that one, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like, dude, you're not even trying. This is not a difference of opinion. You are just saying something that's the literal opposite of the truth.
It's the literal opposite of the truth, and it's massively hypocritical because he supports lower tax parties all over the world. Trump, he loves Trump's tax cuts. He wanted to support all manner of right-wing causes who want to cut taxes in the UK. Not cut taxes for people for whom that would matter, the poor or the middle class or whatever, but for incredibly ridiculously wealthy people like Jeff Bezos of Amazon.
Yeah. I loved all the people who piled on the Twitter thing like, well, dude, you've sold me. Let's tax the fuck out of every company.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely.
Right, you've shown me the error of my ways. Join me in my rally to tax these companies.
That would be brilliant if he memed he memed his way into like a socialist revolution or something.
Yeah, but people like him just don't care about lying. And I've actually seen him. Some of
Well,
his
he works for
supporters.
InfoWars, yes.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah.
I've seen some of his supporters go, dude, you shouldn't just say stuff that's just not true because it devalues all the points. And he goes, oh, who cares? It triggers the libs. And they're like, well, it kind of counts. It's kind of important that you don't just.
Especially when you're screaming constantly about everyone else being fake news. Well, surely it's incumbent upon you to not be fake news yourself.
Yeah, except they don't care. Nothing counts. They're not answerable for anything because Trump showed the way on that.
It's exactly you've preempted me by a millisecond. It's the Trump doctrine. It's we're in a post-truth alternative facts universe now where nothing matters and nothing is true or false. It's what you want to believe.
Yeah, and it's
which is desperately sad and dangerous.
Oh, it's terrible. It's terrifying. It's like people are worried about deep fakes. I was going, I don't know, man. People just believe stupid shit statements that not only have no supporting evidence, but have a mountain of contradicting evidence. I don't think deep fakes are going to fucking change anything. People believe dumb shit just because someone tells them to believe dumb shit.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I've said before, if I was Donald Trump, I would just, like, I would out of my own pocket, I would pay for about 10 feet of wall to get built on the border, and then stand in front of it wearing a hard hat, pretending that I'm like helping build the wall, and then just tell my supporters, yeah, it's across the whole of the border. Yeah, we built the entire thing. And they'd go, oh, awesome. That's brilliant. Okay, moving on to the next thing. Because he wouldn't have to actually do it. They'd believe him.
He started changing the slogan in his rallies to finish the wall because he's going, oh, we've already started. They haven't. There's some existing wall that there's an existing budget for maintenance and repairs. And he said that government spending on maintaining the existing wall was him building the wall. He doesn't say build the wall anymore. He says finish the wall. He just lies.
Yeah. It's one step away from doing what I said, basically.
Yeah.
Just pretend you've built the wall. And people will go, yeah, fine, okay.
Yeah, it's a wall. Man, I'm going to mix myself a drink.
Yeah, go for it.
See, it's morning for you. You'd look really bad if you were drinking. But,
yes, but this is a point I've made before. It would look terrible because it's 9 a.m. But technically, this is the end of my day. So, like, morally, I feel like I should be able to drink now, really. But yeah,
morally, I support you.
Yes. Okay. Well, you do your thing, and I'll.
I'm gonna grab a drink. All right.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So anyway, are we all definitely on side with Mimsy 2020, the president? Yeah. I'll lock on the screen, and we can watch Mimsy licking her paw. Oh, bless. Anyway, hello everyone in the chat. How are we all, wherever we are in the world?
Oh, we got people in Wisconsin. Hello.
Is Wisconsin real? It sounds like it's made up. I don't know.
Mimsy's decided to go for a walk. Fair enough. Although I did notice how popular she's been in the chat. She's always more popular than me.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, geez, the cats should be more popular than humans, though.
I think so.
They're certainly nicer to look at, I think.
Yeah, and she has a few weird personality traits, but
Go on, spill the dirt on Mims.
Oh, well, she doesn't meow properly, quite honestly. Okay. She makes this weird she sounds like a cross between a cat and a crow, quite honestly.
She makes shade at her own cat now. Oh.
I know, yeah. But I mean, because she always wants to be. She loves being in the live chats. But yeah, then I go to bed, she'll jump up on the bed and whatnot. And she's just old. My other half she keeps. I say it's a bit mean, but she points out because we don't know exactly how old Mimsy was. She was a rescue cat, and she'd already had a litter of kittens when we got her, and they were calling her mummy cat. So she was over a year old when we got her, but we don't know exactly how old. And when we were going to name her, because they'd already had been calling her mummy cat, I came up with Mimsy from the line from the poem Jabberwock, Mimsy and the Borogoves. So she became Mimsy. But
Well,
so she's.
I can't help but just say, you nerd.
I know, right? I know. That is a pretty nerdy reason.
How dare you?
Yeah, I know. Pretty bad. But she's somewhere between 13 and 15 years old. So.
Oh wow! Oh, she looks well for it.
She actually does. She doesn't look decrepit at all.
Yeah.
But my other half keeps saying, "Well, she'll probably be dead soon," and I'm like, "That's a little rude. That's a little rude.
That's outrageous.
It's a little rude." And she says it in front of Mimsy, and I'm like, "Don't say it in front of Mimsy. You're going to come back? You had a little explore?"
As a rescue cat, she's probably got a sense of ennui about it, and just thinks, you know what? I'll come to terms with the reality of my soul.
Well, yeah, our other cat, Shadow, is also a rescue cat, but she was a tiny kitten when we got her, and we picked her because she was in a cage with a bunch of other kittens, and she was littler than the others, and they were all picking on her, and we said, that's a bit mean, picking on the runt, and so we adopted Shadow, and we think she suffered like post-traumatic stress disorder from being monstered by the other kittens, and she's never fully got over it. Because she can come up here. Everyone wants to see you.
How old is the other cat?
She's probably about 8, so she's also adult, but she's still a runt. She's only 2/3 Mimsy size, so she's stayed a runt. But she's she's a bit too timid to come in and sit with me. She acts like she wants to sit on your lap and stuff, like when you're watching TV, but she won't settle down. She'll jump up and stand on you, you pat her, and then she'll go, yeah, no, I have to leave now. And off she goes. So Mimsy, on the other hand, is a big sook and loves attention. Good. And although she's come up here so people can see you, she's just out of shot and headbutting me in the elbow.
A long time, so we thank you. We thank you for your contribution. So what are you drinking?
I decided. I mean, I was just drinking my Pepsi Max. I thought, no, I'll give it a little bit of a kick. And I had a bit to choose from, so I just put some Jägermeister in it.
Oh, nice. Okay, cool.
Make a little herbal tonic.
So I couldn't have a terrible cultural Marxist Australian on without discussing the recent goings-on in the One Nation Party.
Oh, they're fabulous. Yeah. Absolutely fabulous.
Do you want to give us a primer as to who these delightful individuals are first?
Okay, well, we had a talk earlier about how some people, they get elected under a party banner and then they decide, I'm not with that party anymore, I'm an independent. That happened with One Nation. One Nation is an explicitly racist party that's existed in one form or another for the last 2 decades, fronted by an explicitly racist woman called Pauline Hanson. And it's super weird to me that her and her defenders keep going, what racism? What racism? And it's like, her maiden speech to Parliament was Australia's being swamped by Asians. Her most recent election to the Senate, her speech was basically the same, but she swapped in Muslims for Asians. We're being swamped by Muslims. Like, her entire ideology is explicitly racist. She's explicitly racist. All of her supporters are explicitly racist, but they do this weird shit where they say they're not, and we're supposed to go along with that. But anyway, she had another senator elected on her ticket by the name of Brian Burston, and he'd apparently been having some conflict with Pauline because the party is officially called Pauline Hanson's One Nation Party now, because she had power fights with people back in the early days. So she put together a charter that basically said she is God Emperor for life and nobody can ever dislodge her no matter what. And this guy, Brian Burston, went along with that to get elected in the Senate. But apparently there'd been quite a bit of tension with her. And he resigned, but didn't resign the Senate. So he's in the Senate as an independent, although he owes the seat to One Nation. And recently in the Parliament, I'm not sure how this works around the world, but in Australia Parliament, there's a thing called parliamentary privilege, where you can say something that you think is important that might get you charged with libel outside of Parliament, but you can't be charged if you say it in the Parliament.
Yeah, that's
the same. Okay,
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, John Boyd Jones is a filthy drug dealer, okay? And you don't have any evidence, so if you said it outside, you get sued, but they can't sue you in the Parliament. And she didn't even name the dude, but she said, oh, there's a senator here, and action should be taken because there's multiple complaints of sexual harassment against him. And she didn't even name him, but everyone knew who she was talking about. And in fact, he came out, Brian Burston said, she's talking about me, but I didn't do it, which I always find hilarious. The unnamed person in that allegation, definitely me, but I definitely didn't do it. Like, cool.
Yeah, that's
and he said
that's an
she
interesting
put
start to a legal defense.
Yeah, he said in retaliation, well, she put the hard word on me when I was in the party. It's one of the reasons I left because, you know, for ages she's been trying to cop a feel on me at parties and stuff, which no one actually believes him. But anyway, then her trusted aide, who's an interesting character because he used to work for the government Liberal Party, and he had a bit of a falling out. He was part of a whole plot they had with someone who'd fallen from favour, who got put in the Speaker's position in the previous Parliament. This guy's name is James Ashby, and he's also gay, which again, in an extreme conservative party, there are people who aren't going to like it. There are going to be lots of conservatives don't give a shit about your sexuality.
The One Nation guy was gay.
Pauline Hanson's trusted advisor, her number one aide, he's employed by her. He's not elected to the Parliament.
Okay, right.
He had an altercation with Brian Burston. And they, of course, tell conflicting stories about what it is. James Ashby says Burston was stalking Pauline Hanson, and Burston says, well, he was stalking me. And there was some physical element. Brian Burston showed a picture of a bloody hand, and he said the altercation with this guy caused this. And he smeared blood on Pauline Hanson's office door, which was awesome. And when he was called to account on that, he said, based on evidence, it must have been me, but I don't remember doing it. So it's like...
I don't remember enacting the scene from the Passover in the Bible or anything.
Exactly. Yeah. And because of the altercation, James Ashby, Pauline Hanson's aide, was banned from Parliament. He had his parliamentary pass revoked because there was video evidence that he got into a physical altercation with a senator. And they said, well, that's against the rules. You can't do that.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair enough, I suppose. But, you know.
So it's like, again, I always say with these extreme fringe hate mongers, they start off with, let's all get together and be hateful together. But they're fucking horrible people. And they spend a bit of time around each other. And even they start to think, God, these are all horrible people. And these coalitions of the hateful always fall apart.
Yeah. And, well, it's a few months old now, but just to give people some real perspective on who and what these people, that party is, was it back in October, Pauline Hanson put forward a motion in the Senate about it's okay to be white.
Oh, yeah, that bloody Nazi white supremacist catchphrase. And the government voted with it.
Yeah, but only because of a clerical error. Angry Aussie. Clearly, that wasn't an intentional dog whistle to racist garbage in the country.
Yeah.
Clerical administrative error.
They said, oh, yeah, we meant to print out a piece of paper telling people to vote against it, but it accidentally said vote for it. And it's like, what the fuck? Because when they motioned in the Senate they were going to vote in support, the Labor senators were yelling across the floor, are you fucking kidding? Are you insane?
Yeah.
And they knew exactly what they were doing.
Yeah. Yeah. But thankfully it was voted down. But yeah.
Oh yeah, they called for a revised vote, and but after they said, "Oh, it was a clerical error, we should have voted the other way," people then uncovered memos from months before when Hanson first raised it, and there were internal Liberal Party memos that explicitly said, "Vote in favour of this." They were fucking lying through it, but it was just the thing is, it's Pauline Hanson. She's saying white people are being discriminated against. Vote that it's okay. You automatically vote no. You automatically vote no on that. Yeah. But they did it, and they, like I said, if the Labor senators were actually yelling at them, are you kidding? And it's, oh my God, it's just a shit show. Oh, another fun thing, they all are getting found out doing stuff that looks corrupt as fuck, but no one's taking any rap for it. The finance minister had a holiday paid for by a Liberal Party donor, and his travel company ended up winning a government contract that the finance minister's department was responsible for granting. But the finance minister said, no, I didn't do anything wrong.
It's a coincidence, I'm sure.
He said, I found out that I accidentally had someone else pay for my holiday and I paid the money back. I was like, what the fuck? And then the agriculture minister, because one of the supermarket chains, Woolworths, said, oh, because there's all been this thing, milk's too cheap, dairy farmers are being run into the ground, blah, 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 blah. It's capitalism, you fuckers, live with it, or join the revolution. Woolworths said, okay, we're going to add an extra 10 cents to the milk that'll go straight to the dairy farmers. And because the other chains didn't do it, the agriculture minister said, well, people should obviously only shop at Woolies and not shop at Coles or Aldi. Then it turns out the agriculture minister has a major shareholding in Woolworths. And he's, our ambassador to the US, who's a former senior government minister, is a major shareholder in another company that's a Liberal Party donor. And he made sure that through the consulate, this company got a major contract. And it's like, there's one other that's escaping me, because I know there were 4 of them in about a 1-2 week period. These things that all sound like rank fucking corruption came out, and they're all just like, ugh, ugh.
Well, that's string out the general election as long as possible and get more corruption in while you can.
It's bizarre. I mean, because they've gone really hard in the last couple of weeks on the refugees are all rapists and murderers and child molesters. And there was one opinion survey that suggested that was working in the government's favour. So I half expected them to call an election overnight, because it was the first remotely good news they'd had in 6 years. But they didn't, so who knows. But I thought this is going to be a racist as fuck election. It's going to be so it's not going to be dog whistling. It's going to be megaphone racism. It already is, and it's just going to get worse.
Yeah, which is not great, considering Australia's already, in terms of its immigration policy, sort of running concentration camps in places.
No, actually literally running camps specifically designed to torture people. The government was incredibly explicit that what they're doing is making conditions worse than the war-torn countries the people are fleeing, that our fucking foreign policy is responsible for. They were literally on record as saying, we want people thinking of fleeing to Australia to understand we will treat them worse than the war zone that they are stuck in.
Oh, fucking hell. I mean, that's some actual Nazi bullshit.
Oh, it's evil as fuck. But of course, it's surreal. It's all just surface appearance, because the big thing is boats. stop the boats. And they've lied. And most Australians don't realise the government has been lying about stopping the boats. There have been a bunch of boat arrivals that they've refused to acknowledge. It's absolutely surreal. It's Yes Minister crossed with Dr. Strangelove levels of stuff.
Oh, no.
But they basically lie and say we stopped the boats. They just refuse to acknowledge boat landings. But also, there have been more refugees and asylum seekers under this government than under every previous one, because the majority have been arriving by plane. They've been able to get the money together for a plane ticket, and they've arrived as tourists and immediately claimed asylum when they got here. So there's actually record numbers of refugees and asylum seekers arriving in Australia. It's just that they're arriving by plane. And but this government, since the 90s, John Howard was the one who decided to use the refugee question as a fucking racist wedge in elections. And that's dominated discourse since the 90s. It's just fucking sick, and it just keeps getting worse.
Yeah,
So I don't know, by the way.
It will be like one of those things, like we mentioned earlier, the White Australia policy, that people will look back on in future generations and think that was one of Australia's darkest hours.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. It's disgusting.
There was a really good video done by, it was weird because it was done by a comedian called Sammy J. And so I kept expecting it to be funny, and it wasn't. Because Kevin Rudd famously made a speech to the Parliament, the official apology to the stolen generations. The Aboriginal population through the 20th century, there was deliberate government policy to break up families, basically try and destroy Aboriginal communities, take children, particularly mixed race children, out of Aboriginal communities and raise them in white orphanages or as adoptees from white families. And they were just taken. It's known as stolen generations. And racists still deny it happened. It happened to people my age and younger, but they just deny it happened. But anyway, Kevin Rudd gave a very impassioned speech. John Howard, the previous Prime Minister of the Conservative government, repeatedly said it's not possible to make an apology because he's, then we're admitting liability and they can sue us and whatnot. But then he lost the election. Kevin Rudd's Prime Minister. Kevin Rudd made the speech of his term as Prime Minister the apology to the stolen generations. It was the high point for him as far as I'm concerned. But anyway, an echo of this comedian did this video, and it was an apology to asylum seekers. It was set 10, 20 years in the future, and it was this really heartfelt, impassioned apology, like, we're sorry we tortured you, we're sorry we did this. We, even at the time, we knew it was wrong, and we did it anyway. And it's very moving and whatnot. It's just really weird to me that it was done by a comedian, because I kept expecting him to be funny.
Yeah, but I'm not. I don't know how you make it funny. Really?
Yeah, no, it wasn't. It was completely straight down the line. But it was kind of like there's a very good series that was done in the lead up to the Sydney Olympics, done by some really good old school Australian comedians, notably John Clark and Brian Dorr, who are famous for doing a series of fake interviews, just known as Clark and Dorr. But it was a mockumentary about the bureaucracy that was running the Sydney Olympics. It's just called The Games. And it's a hilarious mockumentary about bureaucracy and whatnot. And they said, we're getting lots of pressure from other countries for the Prime Minister to do an apology to the stolen generations. When people find out what we did, they're like, what the fuck? You just stole children from their families? What the fuck? And we're under a lot of pressure, and John Howard's refusing to do it. And for a workaround, they get a really well-known actor whose name happens to be John Howard. And his name really is John Howard, but he's an actor who'd been in Australian film and TV for decades. And they said, seriously, who around the world knows who John Howard is? We'll just get John Howard, the actor, to record an apology, and no one will know. No one knows who John Howard is.
Nice.
And it's also a really good speech as well. John Howard's a great actor. And it's a really good speech, like it's an apology to the stolen generation. But it's just these layers of really, really dark humour. There's a couple of good Australian political satire series that are done in the mockumentary style. There's one called The Hollow Men, which is about politics. You know why they call it The Hollow Men? Because there's nothing inside them. It's about politicians and bureaucracy in Canberra. And then the same people did one called Utopia. That's from this government planning department. And it's basically an Australian version of Yes Minister. It's bureaucracy and how horrible it is. And the funniest thing I ever read about that is the people who made the show go, oh, yeah, we always get these letters from public servants in Canberra who say, oh, I tuned into your show and it was the funniest thing I ever saw. It was like my work every day. And then I watched a second episode and I went, no, this is like my work every day. Now I'm sad and I can't watch it anymore. it was like too painfully accurate.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yes. Anyway, have we got any more for any more? Because I am flagging.
You're fading fast. You've been working all night.
I am.
Does anyone want us to say something before we go?
Yeah, but Mimsy has sustained me through this. She's been.
Mimsy sustains everyone.
She's been looking virtually into the camera as if to say, "Go away, foreign person."
She loves the attention.
You should be fussing me, not talking to you.
No, she loves the attention. She'll. It's kind of like if she's around the house, and my other half, Mrs. Angry, knows I'm on here. She knows how popular Mimsy is, so she'll sort of push Mimsy through the door. And then Mimsy goes, okay. And then Mimsy comes and sits on her little castle and gets some attention. Everyone loves her.
Indeed. And that's a positive note to end, because I didn't want to end on immigrant torture.
No. Mimsy is a wonderful cat. Let's finish on that.
Yes. Mimsy 2020. That has to happen.
Mimsy 2020. Everyone would vote for you. Yes. You're above it all, aren't you? Yes.
Although, much like Bernie Sanders, could we not get a younger cat?
Yes, I think we'll get a younger cat. Do you feel bad when we talk about replacing you? It's going to happen. Yeah, no, she just wants attention. She's fine.
Yeah, she don't care. Okay. But thank you, AngryAussie, for coming on and having a chat and all the rest of it. We'll do another one of these at some point in the future, I'm sure. Yeah. He's AngryAussie's channel below. Go and subscribe and watch him shout about bastards on the internet.
And yes, I swear so much. So just be prepared for that. That's all I'm saying.
You know how he's been quite calm and placid in these? Well, it's called AngryAussie for a reason. He gets a bit worked up in those videos, which is good. Yeah. So if you enjoy that, if you enjoy my kind of shit, you probably will enjoy his stuff, I imagine. Yeah.
We do go on about the same sorts of things.
The same sorts of things, lots of swearing, and the occasional cat. So
yes. So yeah.
So I've basically stolen your shtick.
Yeah, it's all good. Yeah.
It's not like the British did steal stuff from around the world.
There's no historical precedent for that.
No. Anyways, and on that bombshell, thank you, and thank you to everyone in the chat. I was going to sort of try and interact with the chat, but I couldn't be bothered in the end. I am literally, as soon as I turn this off, I will barely be able to make it up the stairs to bed. So anyway. Thank you all for listening and watching. If I remember any of this or something, then good. But whatever. Goodbye.
Bye.